morning, good afternoon, or good evening. For those of you that don't know, my name is Sam Stanfield. I'm an English chap living in Finland, and I'm also an ambassador for Hope Technology. Here in Helsinki, my local trails are now rather different from those that I rode while I was living in Scotland previously. They're now more pedally tech with short up and down bursts compared to steeper, longer downhill sections. So I decided I should change bikes to something more suitable, from a longer travel 650B enduro bike to a shorter travel 29er trail bike. Which brings me onto this wee beastie, the Hope HB.130. It's an almost perfect match for my local trails in the city here, since, as the name suggests, it has 130mm of travel in the frame and then 140mm up front, superbly handled by this Öhlins shock and fork. Gear shifting duties are handled by a SRAM XO1 derailleur and cassette, and pretty much everything else is from Hope, including these lovely Tech 3 E4s, providing plenty of stopping power and fine tuning of the bite point and reach. This HB.130 of mine was delivered complete and ready to ride, but I wanted to do a few things first just to personalize it and get it set up for my riding style, such as wrapping it with Invisiframe, swapping out and installing some new components, and putting the proverbial icing on the cake with some custom decals, all of which it will be my pleasure to show you today.
Get on with it!
Without further ado, the first bit of preparation was to remove the decals ready to imply the Invisiframe. If you haven't heard of Invisiframe, it's a thin but tough transparent plastic wrap that you apply all over your frame to help protect it in those moments when you choose the wrong line on a trail and end up going arse over tit into a rock garden. So here's a few tips I found useful in the process. The idea of Invisiframing and trying to get everything just right can be quite intimidating. This is your new pride and joy after all. However, one saying I like to adhere to is, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Of course, do your best to align things properly and get rid of any bubbles, but don't lose your mind over it. Bikes are supposed to be fun after all. You can put on a podcast if you're an information junkie, or some relaxing music. In my case, I chose a few Pink Floyd albums. You're going to be using soapy water, so cover the brake caliper with a glove. Orientate the bike so the gravity is going to do some of the work for you and help you remove the bubbles. And tick off the parts from the pieces map as you work to help keep track of where you are and make sure you don't miss anything. The process of applying each piece of Invisiframe can be split into 3 steps. The first step is to clean and degrease the section you're about to apply the Invisiframe to, then dry it with a lint-free cloth. You don't want any dirt or dust or hairs trapped under here. The second step is to spray the area with a mixture of water and baby soap. Also apply this to your fingers so you don't leave any fingerprints, and all over the piece that you're about to apply. The more soap you use, the longer it will take to adhere, so aim for a ratio of water to soap that allows you time to position the Invisiframe but doesn't take too long to squeegee and dry out. The final step is to get it stuck down in place, so once you've got it in the right position, start to squeegee the bubbles and the water out from the center. There may be a few areas near the edge that don't stay down, so you can press and hold them or carefully apply heat using a hairdryer or a heat gun. And roughly 2 to 4 hours later, depending on your level of experience and confidence, you will be finished. I used a matte effect Invisiframe to match the matte of the carbon layup on the HB.130.
It's so beautiful.
And one must say, one is rather pleased. I think it looks absolutely spiffing. The next daunting task was to install the Tyre inserts. If you don't know what these are, basically it's a big foam donut which goes inside a tubeless tyre to protect against rim dings and give a bit of extra support. If you do know what they are, then you know how hellish they can be to install sometimes. But I was up for the fight and was not about to come second to a piece of foam. Yes! Yeah, boy.
Let's do that again! No!
As for inserting the sealant, because of the hassle of getting the tyres on, I wanted to add the sealant through the valve core hole, which is where I ran into a problem. The inside surface of the valve sat flush with the insert, and that made it very difficult to inject the sealant through.
If I had a black light, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Though eventually I managed with the first one through sheer stubbornness. For the next tyre, what I actually did is I took a Dremel and carved a channel on either side of the air hole on the inner surface of the valve to allow the sealant to flow through more easily. If you're setting up tubeless inserts, it may be worth checking out how the inside of your valve matches up with the shape of the surface of your insert, just to make sure you're not going to come across this problem yourself. Now that the inserts are installed, the wheels were now ready to go and hit the gnarly trails of Finland with a greatly reduced risk of hearing that dramatic clang of metal on rock that every mountain biker and his wallet knows and fears. Alright, now we shall discuss seating arrangements. The bike came with a 175mm Fox transfer dropper post, but I'm 188cm tall and this is an L size frame, and I like to be able to run my seat post as low as possible, keeping it out of the way for tricks and steep descents. So I decided to go for a dropper with the shortest insert length, meaning I bought a 200mm OneUp dropper post. It's also cable actuated, which is great for the cold winters here in Finland, as I've had naught but problems with hydraulic reverbs in the past. Plus, as lovely as Kashmir is,
I love gold!
I would prefer the post to match the fork stanchions and the shock shaft, just a bit more aesthetically pleasing having things matching. Moving forward, let's talk about the parts that get us moving forwards, namely the drivetrain. Although this Hope chainring is narrow-wide, which helps keep the chain on, I'm going to put the supplied guide on anyway, just to be doubly certain. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice that the shape and motion of the chainring looks a little strange, but no, it didn't get damaged during delivery. It's actually an oval chainring.
Nerd alert!
Oval chainrings are designed to make your pedaling more efficient by changing the radius of the chainring at different parts of the stroke. This maximizes the part of the stroke where power is produced and minimizes resistance where it isn't. It totally sounded like a gimmick to me at first, one to make roadies spend more money, but then I tried one, really noticed the benefit myself, and I haven't looked back since. Now let's look at the other end of the cranks. Most of the trails here in Finland are basically one giant rock and root garden, whether you're going up or going down, so for a bit of extra protection against any potential pedal strikes, I fitted some rubber crank booties, and if you know a cooler name than booties, please let me know. For the pedals, I went with the OneUp alloy pedals because they're light, have a large platform with large open areas for good snow clearance here in the winter, and pins so vicious that your feet will stay on the pedals out of pure fear. Next up, I put a mudguard on the front because it guards against mud. Enough said. Of course, once your bike is all set up and lovely, you're going to want to keep it that way on the trails, so you need to take some equipment with you. One option is to carry a backpack, but it's really not my cup of tea, as I find they can hinder your movement and be kind of annoying. Though when I require a bit more storage, I do ride with a tactical hip pack.
It's a goddamn fanny pack, and you know it, you sick son of a bitch.
Therefore, in the interest of flexibility and not having a sweaty back, I wanted to be able to carry water and tools on my bike. So I went for a magnetic fidlock bottle.
Fucking magnets, how do they work?
And a OneUp pump and EDC tool, which both fit snugly onto the frame here. Let's talk about which side your brake levers should be on. So the last thing I need to do before putting all the decals on is swap brake hoses over, because they're currently on the wrong side. That being the front brake on the left and the rear brake on the right. I just can't be having that. It's like when people drive on the wrong side of the road, which is the right hand side, just nope. So yeah, swap that over. Shouldn't take too long. Just a case of undoing the hoses from here. The olives will take care of the preventing the leakage, and yeah, hopefully just swap it over, but fingers crossed I am not able to mess it up. Now, from children to adults, Everyone loves a good set of stickers, and I'm no exception to that. I decided to go for a green and silver colour scheme to pay tribute to both the classic Hope green and classic British racing cars. The rim decals came direct from Hope, and the Öhlins decals from Invisiframe, whose colour matching options meant I could get the perfect fit to match the other Hope decals. While trying to get the alignment right, especially on curved areas, my OCD senses were tingling.
You don't have the technology or the steady hands to pull off a procedure like that, so ha!
But after a few attempts, I was pretty happy that they were on correctly. As well as the manufacturer logos on the components, I added a few extra details like this OneUp Work Less, Ride More sticker, ironically while building this bike at the shop where I work, name and flag sticker from Slick Graphics, and the finishing touch was of course my traditional mustache sticker on the head tube. Thanks Yoel for that kind donation. And with that, the build was complete.
Wait, hold on a minute, play it up, stop. You know what you want to do with that, right? You want to put a banging
new tires and cable organization
on it. Yeah, that's sick, that is sick.
Since filming the initial build, I went riding a few times, and lo and behold, the Maxxis XO sidewalls could not handle the gnarly Finnish rock gardens. I got a big sidewall rip. So, I went back to the classic tried and tested Schwalbe combo of a Magic Mary on the front and a Hans Dampf on the rear, both with the super gravity sidewall to prevent against future tears. And finally, here is the finished short travel 29-inch wheels Trails Enduro XE MTB weapon. I'm bloody chuffed to bits with how it turned out. Big shout out to Hope for producing such a stunning bicycle and for giving me the opportunity to represent them. Alright ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me. If you're interested, you can find a spec list in the description below, and stay tuned for a first ride video coming soon. Cheerio!